Go ahead and close your eyes if you can. Smoothing out your forehead. Relaxing the corners of your eyes and your mouth. Unclench your jaw. And roll your shoulders away from your ears. Together, we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose. And exhale, letting go out the mouth. Another deep breath in through the nose, filling up your diaphragm and your lungs. Holding at the top. And exhale out the mouth, really letting go. Gently opening up your eyes if you closed them. Welcome back to Mindful Moves with me, your host, Daniela Jensch. I am happy to have you here again. Another week, another episode, and this one is such a personal one to me. I'm sure they all are, but this one is, I think, the most relevant one in my life, I would say currently. And it's twofold to this episode. The one part is about support, where to expect it to come from, how it usually plays out in your life, and the surprises that come with that. And then the second part of this episode is about privacy and knowing when to share parts of your life. So I'm going to start at the beginning. And obviously, what makes the most sense is for me to share examples from my own life, right? I'm here to say that in life, you are always going to be doing things, and I hope you're going to be doing things that pique your interest, that make you happy, and that fulfill you in some sort of way, in whatever way that is to you. What you decide to do with your life is completely yours. Obviously, we have a lot of thoughts about this and a lot of conditioning to think that we need to do things and show up in a certain way to please other people or to receive validation from other people. That's a whole different topic. The point being, if you decide to do anything with your life, if you start a new venture, if you start a new routine, if you start a new habit, I would love for you to become mindful about the support you receive during those times. Now, I'm not really talking about when you are doing something negative with your life. This is more an uplifting feeling, right? So, uplifting actions. An example would look like maybe you've decided you're going to start gymming because you really want to focus on building your muscle strength because you know how important it is for your health and for your brain, actually, and your insulin and all of that. Let's say that's your goal. It's something uplifting, it's something positive, it's something better for you. Or you really decide this is the year that I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day. Or you say you're going to become a nutrition expert and you've always been interested in nutritious eating and you actually want to follow this passion and actually learn it yourself deeply, practice it, and then teach other people. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to start painting. I love this example because it's important to have duality, right? Because I'm trying to show you that it doesn't have to be something about, let's say, quote unquote, success, right? It doesn't have to be something where you're putting yourself out there. Whatever it may be to you. For me, it was a bunch of things over the last few years. I started sharing on social media. I wrote a book. I started certain health changes. I would love for you to, if you're deciding to do that with your life, if you're deciding to do some sort of positive, uplifting change in your life, it is so important for you to notice the people who automatically support you and the people who doubt you from the very minute you open your mouth. I think it is so important to notice the people around you because something that I've learned along my way, to be honest, is the people you expect to support you when you are bettering yourself often turn out to be the people who don't say a word They might be negative about it, but most of the time, in my experience, I've noticed people are just quiet. But being absent in someone's growth, or being absent and quiet and neutral, already tells me which side of the coin that they lean towards. Because I personally believe that this is a big moment when you start doing things that push yourself out of, like last week's episode, out of your comfort zone, and you start growing. Remember that the people in your immediate environment very often share the same habits as you. We are the product of the people we are closest to. It is just like that. So if you start changing the status quo, maybe you start doing something different. Maybe you say no to going out 4 times a week and you only want to go once. The people in your circle can go one of two ways. They can support you and they can uplift you and say, you know what, you're doing what we all wish we could do. Like, you just keep going. I'm not going to tempt you. I'm not going to talk you out of it. Or, and I mean, this is most of the time, and I hope it's not for you, but the people who are in your immediate environment will feel something. Now, I'm going to just use the word something and I'll get into it later. But that something might cause them to act in a way that isn't positive, isn't supportive, and isn't in your best interest. I'm here to say, number one, this has nothing to do with you, and you should definitely not take it personally. It is not about you. A lot of the time, people feel something that they might not even know that they're feeling. It could be very subconscious, that challenges maybe them, and it challenges where they're at in their life. And a lot of the time, when we are lifting ourselves up, people can feel uncomfortable about it. And I think that's a good word. People often, when things are changing around them, or the people that they are used to are changing, it can make people feel super uncomfortable. And I want to just reiterate, it's not about you. You keep doing what you need to do, because I can promise you that the people who truly love you for you, the people in your support system, your family, your relationships, your friends, the people who truly love and adore you will support you through whatever you do when you are uplifting your life. Because they want to see you thrive, because they love you unconditionally. They want you to be the best version of you. Sometimes, even when they do love you, they still feel this uncomfortability. We project a lot. All humans do this. We project. When someone else is thriving, we think, oh, I should have, I could have, I would have. And maybe you experience jealousy. Maybe you experience questioning your own worth, questioning your own life. I want you to remember that this is all perfectly normal. But we are talking about you. We are talking about you. And if you are wanting to change certain things in your life, it is vital that you just sit in a position and you observe. That's all you're going to do. You're just going to observe how people react, how people support you. In my personal case, I started doing this podcast. I was so nervous. The people that I truly believed would support me the most, sometimes, and not all, most of the people in my life were really supportive, really amazing. And I'm going to get to that point in a second. But sometimes a handful of people surprise us the most in how they react. They don't support your work, or they don't share your thing. And I mean, a lot of creators talk about this. When you start maybe with social media, now this is just my example, please apply it to your life in your own practical examples. But when you start sharing in this type of form, it costs absolutely nothing for friends and family to share a video, or like a video, or comment on a video. And a lot of the times where we expect that from the people closest to us, they could sometimes disappoint us. Now, you have two choices. In my life, I had the choice of being like, how could they do this? How could they not support me? They seem like such good friends, but then they won't show it through actions. I'm here to tell you, don't even bother thinking about it. It's important to notice it, because then you learn, and I'm going to get to the second part about sharing. All you need to do is be in an observer seat. Don't attach emotion to it. I know that that's not that easy to do, but through practice, you can learn this. Notice it, understand the people who are absolutely your number one fans, and notice the people who are just not. You don't need to psychoanalyze them. You don't need to understand why they are acting like that. You don't even need to approach them, talk to them about it, nothing. And that might feel difficult, but all you need to do is notice. Because part two, when you notice who's really for you, who is so supportive, the people who are your number one fans. I have friends who literally listen to every single episode of my podcast, tell me how amazing it was. And I mean, I've been doing this for a while. They don't have to do that, but they do. And I have people who support me and send me beautiful messages or notice when I start something new or do something else. And those are the people that I share the most with. Do you see the correlation? The people who have your best interests at heart and the people who have your back and love you unconditionally, those are the people you are safe to open up to. This is what I've learned in my journey. When I was writing my book, I only shared that information with very select few people because I know how it goes. I have learned many times over, that a lot of the time people are just wanting to know what's going on in your life rather than actually caring about what you're doing with your life. Now, I want you to hear that again. People are just interested in what you are doing. That doesn't mean that they care. Notice how they ask questions. Notice how they respond. If people are just asking, so what project are you working on now? Or what are you doing now? And you tell them and they say, okay. There's no well done. There's no that's amazing. Tell me more. What inspired you to do this, etc. If people are collecting information and data, notice. Because these are the people you don't necessarily need to share to. And it's not to say this has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with protecting your energy bubble. Whatever you believe in, I believe we have energy bubbles. And our bubbles are completely wrapped around our lives. And in order to have an uplifting and positive life, you need to have the right energy. And that energy is easily, I want to say, infiltrated by other people's energy. Because people project the whole time. They are always projecting onto you. When you don't get the support you need, maybe you've started something and someone that you really believed, someone you're so close to, would support you and they didn't. Often it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your work. This is an important part. So if you tie these concepts together, what am I trying to tell you? Whenever you do anything uplifting in your life, if there's any change, it could be a habit, it could be anything. I need you to take a back seat. Put your emotions on pause and just begin to notice. We can learn a lot about the people around us and our lives when we just begin to take a step back and listen and really observe with the most open eyes and heart and not attach any meaning to it. Just because they are acting in a certain way does not mean that they are bad people. I think that the key here is that those people, you just need to know who you can really confide in, who you can speak to, and who's going to have your back no matter what. It is important. It is so important to have people who are giving you positive feedback. Again, another thing, when you're doing stuff, and this is actually also a personal example, when you are doing stuff and sharing with the world, it's very often that the people who care about you and bless them want to give you advice. But something that's important here is unsolicited advice is always criticism. If you haven't asked someone, this is my personal belief, you don't have to agree, but unsolicited advice is something that I don't really engage in and I don't really listen to. I'm never mean about it. I will thank the person. But I know that at the end of the day, they might say, okay, this is me just trying to help you. But if that same person is not supporting you in your other endeavors, then I just need you to put two and two together, right? So when people love us, I know that sometimes the way they show love is by giving constructive feedback, but I think it's important for those people to think about their actions. If you are not matching that energy equally with positive, uplifting messages to that same person, then there's no point. Because a key aspect here, if there's someone in your life that you wouldn't necessarily go to advice for, why would you take their criticism? And I think this is a key aspect. I don't dish out advice unless somebody asks me or opens up and shares and would like to talk about the topic. I think it's super important that when the people around me, and this is a constant practice because I feel like we all just want to help. It doesn't come from a place of meanness. We need to train ourselves and remind ourselves or practice that we are not here to dictate how other people live their life, because you have no idea how their life feels for them. Each person has their life. Each person has different emotions and feelings in their life. You don't get to tell them what's right or wrong. You don't get to tell them how you think would be better for them. You need to love them exactly as they are. So this is a two-way street. When you are doing things in your life, you are starting a new habit, you're starting a new business, you're starting anything uplifting in your life. You could just be meditating, which is very uplifting if you do that. You could be doing absolutely anything. Notice the people and the support around you, and then through that observation, notice who you share with. And on the other side of the coin, when people around you are changing their life, doing new things, starting something, if your best friend starts a bakery and is so excited to sell pastries and cakes, I would urge you to start off with noticing all the positive things they are doing before you decide to share something negative that they could work on. I think a lot of people try to help that way, but that's why I'm doing this episode, to give a different perspective. I hope that we all notice how we act and how we support our friends, and I hope we all notice how they support us. And this applies to anyone in your life. Because guess what? The funniest and craziest thing that I never expected with starting this podcast and my book, strangers will support you so much. Because at the end of the day, that's your target audience. You are not doing anything if you are sharing something right now. So I'm not talking about necessarily a personal habit change, but let's say you do something where it infiltrates the outside world, whatever it may be, you start something new. Often strangers are your biggest supporters, which really took me by such surprise. They send you the kindest messages. They notice you and they uplift you, where I guess people closest to you might just take it for granted, or maybe they don't feel the urge to share it. And I think that this is a key aspect, is drop what everyone is doing. And I just hope that you do whatever you want to do. If you are doing something for yourself and you're uplifting yourself in some way, support yourself. That's the third message here, right? So the first message, let's just run through it because it's super important stuff. The first message, whenever you are changing and doing something positive and uplifting in your life, notice the support you receive. Part 2, after noticing that support, decide who you share your life with. Decide who you share your most intimate moments or projects or anything in your life with. Super, super important. And point number 3, I hope that you notice this, but I also hope that you act in a way that best reflects this. So when people around you are making positive and uplifting changes, be their number one fans. It costs absolutely nothing to do so. And I just personally believe that if that's what you send out, that's what you'll receive back. And you're not even doing it to receive it back. You're doing it to be a good human, to be a good support system. That's how you build a beautiful support system, is by being supportive. You need to be the type of energy that you wish to receive. And oh my goodness, it feels amazing when you have amazing people around you, uplifting you, looking out at your moves, and not with criticism, but with joy, with openness. And this will infiltrate into your entire life. The support system that you have, the people you have around you, are so, so vital. This brings me to the fourth point, and probably the most important one. You need to support yourself. You need to look out for yourself. You need to validate yourself, and you need to make sure that you are clapping with both hands and screaming and shouting and supporting for yourself. It is so beautiful to have that cherry on top where you have loved ones who support you. My goodness, that is beautiful if you have that and you appreciate that. But the biggest win is always internal. You need to shout for yourself. You need to be your biggest number one fan, because I can promise you that if you're constantly waiting for outside validation in whatever you do, in any achievement, you will always feel empty, because there is not one person on this earth who can really, really look at you and make you feel that validation, because it has to come from within. So what you think that you're constantly seeking outside, that validation, you need to start learning how to give it to yourself. An example, I wrote my book. I buy myself flowers and I say, well done. On each little milestone, I say, well done, Dans. You did a great job. You're doing fantastic, because you don't need to rely on other people on the outside to keep celebrating your growth and milestones. You can do that for yourself. And I urge you to do it for yourself, because you can fill up your own cup. And I'm not saying that they're separate, it goes hand in hand. Humans are social creatures. We need our community and we need the people around us. But your cup can be so full just by you taking a little bit of extra time to nurture the relationship with yourself. The longest relationship you will ever have, and I've made an episode on this, is with yourself. So why don't you treat it as such? Why don't you nurture it? So many of us neglect it and then expect the people in our life to fill that up for us. You need to nurture that for yourself. If the people around you are disappointing you by not supporting you, start supporting yourself. There's obviously a gap somewhere. There's a gap, there's a missing piece, so you can fill it. So those 4 super important points, I would say, and I guess they're just super relevant to me right now. Take them with you. Reflect on this. Who are your number 1 fans? Who should you be sharing with? Who should you maybe just take a tiny step back away from when it comes to super personal details? How can you show up as a better friend, a better family member, a better stranger even? And fourthly, how are you showing up for yourself? How are you supporting yourself? Remember, the light that you're constantly seeking outside of yourself is just waiting to be acknowledged within. Have a beautiful week. I'll see you soon.